Hello everyone, welcome back to Manaakitia Zoo. We are actually back in the zoo after a huge absence. A lot has changed, which I'm quite eager to show. We are probably going to be going over some ground previously covered in the previous episode with this one, but I feel it works with the whole scheme of everything with what I'm trying to show, so please pardon the repetition. But as you can see, we're going into our Primate Estate, which is now containing every primate species in the game. So we'll just head on in. This obviously, the sign here is being made in Photoshop. Quite happy with it, made by myself. I mean, yeah, it's not the most it's not exactly the most complicated of things, but sometimes simplicity works better, and in this case I feel simplicity is working in our favour quite well. I am aware it is overlapping the path a wee bit, but I have put the the security rail, can't think of the name for it right now, under there, so no one should be walking through. Ignore the bit just there, that's just where I put the animals which are sick and injured, which I can't get rid of, in there before getting rid when putting animals in the habitats, because I want all of the habitats to be functional and everything. Obviously once the zoo is finished this will go, but for the time being that's just there. So first of all we head on in, and then we come to our Japanese macaque habitat. As you can see, I'm in the new Explore camera, which massive help. As you can see, we've got our custom sign up there, but we also have our hot spring pool with a window here, which was recently added, and as you can see, has actually been reworked. I rebuilt this just after the wetlands pack came out, as you can probably see by the taps just here. Aside from that, not too much has changed. I've reworked the inside of the habitat. The climbing frame and everything in the massive one in the middle, as you can see here, it was in there before, but it's been reorientated, which I don't think I said in the last episode. If I did mention it, I can't remember if I did or not, but this is actually from the workshop by a individual called Shahar Pratt. I'm sorry if I've butchered the name there, but that's who that is by. So I don't know, not too much is different. It contains 30 macaques, I do believe, and yeah, it's a fairly large habitat, as you can see. Do have a indoor area there, indoor habitats for apes. However, isn't exactly my forte, but I feel it works quite well. Yeah, not too much to cover. Report, as I say, this was covered in the previous episode, so I don't want to spend too long on here. As we go, I will say, as we go further into the zoo, we'll start to see the red art shapes on the floor. They are there for a reason. They're just basically there to depict where I want to put foliage and everything, which, as you can see, we've definitely put a lot of in. Some of it a bit lazy, I will admit, with it, but I feel it works quite well, especially with all the bamboo and everything. Bamboo is very easy to grow from my understanding, and makes it look a bit more lush and everything, and nicer for the viewers, providing plenty of shade for our guests. When, let's face it, we are in New Zealand, it does get hot there, but it also can get very cold. But especially in the hotter days of the year, I feel having like these tall bamboo plants would provide plenty of shade for our guests, which, especially since living in England, we did have a heat wave just recently of where temperatures got to 40 degrees, and I'll tell you now, shade on a hot day is very much your friend. But moving on, we'll move to our mandrill habitat. This is the second smallest. Sorry about that, I had a interruption at hut while recording. So yeah, this is our mandrill habitat. This is the second smallest enclosure in the primate habitat, Primate Estate even. This is primarily due to the fact that when I was building it, I knew I was going to put foliage here, there, and over there. So I had this massive triangular bit of land which I wasn't overly sure what to do with, and then just came to the conclusion, well, mandrills don't require too much space, if memory serving, when I looked at the Zoopedia in the game. So I slapped this down, and in here we have 6 mandrills, 1 male, which you can actually see right here, and 6 females, so you can see the size differences between the two right there. Again, we've got our indoor viewing, which I'm not too great at, and I don't want to walk through too far because we've got to walk through plenty of people. Oh, over the banner, but that barrier, and there, as you can see, there's the indoor habitat, and so there's plenty of verticality in there, even if there's not too much there in the form of our actual like ground space. But no, again, quite happy with how it's worked out. May not be the best habitat in this particular area of the zoo, but I feel in the grand scheme of things it works for where it is. So after that we can come around here, just pick up the pace a wee bit, and then we come to our capuchin habitat. Now this actually is the smallest habitat in the Primate Estate. And you can see lots and lots of verticality. I am potentially looking, however, to redevelop this because it's just too tall. I mean, I want some verticality in here, obviously, but for what it is, I think it's just too tall. So yeah, I mean, in here we've got 10 capuchins. I think you can see one just there where my cursor is. But no, really happy with how it turned out. We've got our indoor viewing just here, which nice and compact. This actual climbing structure in here I did build myself. But yeah, there's another one of our little friendly critters. Obviously these ones I have tried to rename them. There's 2 males in here, which, let's face it, being capuchin, monk, white, one being white-faced capuchins, there's only 2 names that the males could have. One being Spike after the capuchin from Friends, and the other one being Spike, named after the one from Ace Ventura. So moving on to there, like directly opposite, we have our proboscis monkey habitat. This has been slightly reworked, I believe, but not too much. In here we've got 15 proboscis monkeys. It is yeah, this is the second iteration of the habitat, but the original I have kept as a blueprint, which will be going in being used later, but I just figured this would work better. And we have a small indoor viewing, which unfortunately no one ever seems to use, but it's there if anyone wants to use it. Again, got some indoor viewing, indoor housing, so if it does get too cold they can go indoors. And yeah, really happy with how it's turned out. Now, plenty of foliage, plenty of room for them to run around. And I think this is actually the first habitat I built in this area to have a waterfall. But yeah, so again, moving on, we come to probably my favourite habitat that I've built in this area, which is our lemur dome. Now the lemur dome is again the second iteration of this habitat. It contains all 3 species of lemur in the game. Originally it was just the red-ruffed lemur and the ring-tailed lemur, which was in here, but obviously with the anniversary of Planet Zoo, the black and white ruffed lemur has been added. It contains 10 of each lemur, and this is the first habitat in the entire zoo actually to be totally circular and domed. But this one I know we did cover in the previous episode, but again, every time I look at this habitat, I'm still really proud of how it turned out. It's come out pretty much bang on how I intended it to, and maybe looking to potentially rework the climbing in in here, but not too serious about doing it because I feel it works really well. And yeah, and again that's got some indoor an indoor section of the habitat, but we won't be looking at because it, at the end of the day, the main piece of this habitat is the dome and the interior, well, the external area for our lemurs. So then we move on, and now these bits are all new and weren't covered in the last episode because we've come on to our great apes. Little refreshment and toilet block just there because, well, we needed somewhere for our guests to go. But first of all, so yeah, there's the red art pieces I said about earlier. We just ignore that. We come to our western chimpanzee habitat. Now this habitat is inspired by a habitat just behind that wall there, which we'll come to in a second. But no, really pleased with this. Is I actually had to dig it in a bit. We have 7 chimps held in this habitat. This is the first Great Ape habitat that I actually built in this zoo, which may be a bit of a hint to the next one, but we'll, as I say, we'll get to that. Yeah, really pleased with how it's turned out. We've come along here, as you can see, we're all foliaged up. Still working on doing the foliage, new fence, exterior wall for the zoo, but we'll cover that in the part 2 of this episode because there are so much to do. I'm going to have to do this as a 2-part of this episode. So we come along here, and as you can see here, we have our Goodall house, named for Jane Goodall, who's very famous for her conservation work with chimpanzees. Little statue of our chimp. And then in my head canon for this zoo, this actually was a redevelopment of the original chimpanzee house, but was opened actually by Dame Jane Goodall, OBE, on the 2nd of April this year. And as you see, got our indoor viewing, plenty of room for them to work around, and this is where I feel I've started actually developing as a builder. We've got plenty of indoor. Again, some bits were taken from the habitat over there, which we'll come to in a second. But yeah, really happy with this. Got a quote on here from Jane Goodall herself. It's not the whole quote, but it's the vast majority of it. But I still feel, even if it isn't the whole quote, it still works really well. Then up here we have the names of the chimpanzees killed in the Gombe chimpanzee war, which Jane Goodall did witness, and when it was reported wasn't taken seriously, but we now know otherwise, and she was proven right, and rightly so. So yeah, then we'll move on to the second habitat, which I didn't build, but the habitat that this habitat was based on, so we'll just do a quick cut and I will join you there. So here we go, this is the habitat which inspired our chimpanzee habitat, which is, I've dubbed the Darwin house, but actually was built by Haribo, who very kindly has allowed me to use it in Manaakitia. I did ask him, obviously I've asked him because I just said he allowed me to have it. But yeah, massive thanks, mate, for allowing me to use this incredible build. Hope you don't mind me putting a name across it, but we have a little plaque to Charles Darwin, named after Charles Darwin for the origin of the species and everything. And this is based on the gorilla and bonobo house in Wilhelmer Zoo in Stuttgart, I believe. As you can see, we have our pictures of all our gorillas and our bonobos. Obviously here we have our Western Lowland gorilla habitat, which can't see any from here, but as you can see, there is an interior to the habitat, and we can also go along here with plenty of opportunities for viewing the external habitat for our gorillas. All this pathwork was actually done by Haribo himself very kindly, after I was struggling to get it all done, placing it in the correct areas. But it doesn't look to be any gorillas outside, so we'll head on indoors. What I like about this habitat is, even though you come first of all to our gorilla habitat, gorillas here, we go indoors and we actually have the bonobos, who from the looks of it are all out in the exterior viewing, but which we'll get to in just a second. Again, this was all placed by Haribo in here again, and yeah, you can see we've got our gorillas just there in our indoor habitat. We have 6 gorillas here. We have as well as 6 bonobos. And again, like as I said, I can't say thank you enough to Haribo for allowing me to use this incredible habitat. Really pleased, and I feel it fits in the zoo really well. Got our little warning sign here about baring teeth and banging your chest in front of a gorilla, because they view it as a threat, and you don't want to get screwed up by a gorilla. Even though, I mean, they are lovers, not fighters. They are incredibly dangerous animals, and at the end of the day, they are wild animals, and you don't mess with nature. So we can come out of the Darwin house now and come along here, because then we have our exterior viewing for the bonobos, which I can't see any of here. Oh, there's one just there where my cursor is. When we come here, we've got a better exterior viewing, and you actually see all 6 of our bonobos, which doesn't happen very often in a habitat of this size. But yeah, again, Haribo, I know I keep saying it, Haribo, thank you so much for allowing me to use your build, and like, I hope, as I say, like the rest of the zoo can do it justice. You're incredible for letting me use it. So then we go opposite. We have our walkway just here, which is a entirely new habitat which you won't have seen before, which actually is our Bornean orangutans. Admittedly no foliage in here, but lots of verticality with climbing frames. A lot of taken from the workshop. I can't remember who they're from. I will put but there's a lot in there. You can see there's one of our orangutans there. Little stairwell here for our keepers to get down. This actually was built at a time where a lot of our arboreal animals wouldn't climb, but obviously thanks to the new update they do. So hence we've got our walkway across here for orangutans to cross from one half of the habitat into this half. But now obviously with the new update, our arboreal animals do seem to definitely be climbing more. There you go, there's our big male here. We have 5 orangs held in here, again with a indoor viewing. The house itself, 4 of them named after, I'm probably going to butcher this name, for Birute Galdicus, who is a German lady famous for, well, who's famously worked with orangutans for conservation efforts. We have our keeper area here. Not many people do come in here. I have seen people in here viewing our orangs, but again, got our indoor viewing area. There's for the keeper to get down. The orangs can't fit into there, which works well for me. Yeah, this is actually the second habitat held by the orangutans in this zoo, because originally, which I think I covered in a previous video, they are actually were in where we now keep our clouded leopards. But I feel where the clouded leopards are now works a lot better, and this also works well for an orang habitat. And actually, plenty of donations going, which is good to see, and a spectacular view of our male orang's backside. But at least he's not pooing, which, as you know, plenty of times when you do a tour in this game, you do get a lot of pooing animals. But so we'll head on around here for our final animal in the Primate Estate, but is also the newest primate in the game, where we have our siamangs. However, I'm not overly sure how to say it. I generally say siamangs, but I've been told that is actually wrong. But this is again a habitat I'm looking to redevelop, and it's actually the first animal from the conservation pack. So I will be, but as I say, really looking to redevelop here, because I mean, at the end of the day, you wouldn't probably get just sheer cliff face like that into a habitat in a zoo. But really happy with what I've done, considering it was a first attempt at one. I'm looking forward to what I can do as a second attempt. But again, plenty of verticality. It's about 1.5 square meters of space in there, so plenty of room for them. And yeah, as you probably hear, I've actually turned the game volume off for myself, but you'll probably hear plenty of noises coming from our Siamangs, which are the first gibbon in the zoo. Oh, someone's being moved. But that isn't just the only thing I've got to show in this tour today, because we actually have a new area which I'll be cutting to in just a second. So bear with me and I'll take you there. Okay, so here we are at the outside of the zoo, but as you'll see here, we actually have a second entrance, which this is a side gate I've built, but for my actual head canon of Manaakitia Zoo, this would have been the original entrance to the zoo, but when we had the hotel built over there, they added a new, more modern entrance, which is actually bigger because the zoo's grown and is getting a higher guest volume. It was decided that they'd build a second entrance which would become the main entrance. So this has now been relegated to the side gate, but has been redeveloped up to a wee bit. But the original base of the original structure has been kept by the zoo, and this was actually based off of a design for an entrance of the west gate, I believe, to the Milwaukee County Zoo in America. So we head on in. You can see our gift shop just there, and you can already see our sign for what area we're coming in now, and no prizes for guessing what animals are going to be here, because this is our land down under. Now this one I did kind of try and get a bit more, because we're in New Zealand, and very famously New Zealand, home of the Maori. We have a Maori arch taken off of the workshop here, and we've got some Maori art, mask structures. I can't remember what they are exactly. It's been a while since I placed some structures there, and there's one on the inside of our gift shop. But we have into this nice little plaza. We've got a restaurant just there, which I've dubbed the Outback Shack, because I couldn't think of a better name considering we're in a Australian area. Got a toilet block there, and nothing really to report. It's just the in-game restaurant piece. Just some seating in there, internal seating and some external seating. So we'll come on over to our as I say, come over to the gift shop. Nothing really in here. I'm not too great with building gift shops. I gave it a go, but I just couldn't get it to work, especially with the height. So we've just got some ATMs, and then our counters for each of the memorabilia shops. We've got Looney Balloons, just a memento, and our Hat's Fantastic there. But going to our first habitat, which is just over here, which is our red kangaroos. This is actually the first Australia pack animal I put in the zoo, and we whole keep 8 kangaroos in here, 1 male, 7 females. Really pleased with how this came out, because this habitat was more of an experiment to build. I have a little viewing down here, which also leads to, there's our staff area. Don't really need to see in there, but comes down to our a little staff entrance into there. But just a little bit more guest viewing from different angles, because from where we were, you can't really see down this end of the habitat. As I was saying, you can't really see down too far into this habitat from just here, so I have a little extra viewing just there. And yeah, but no, it's fairly large habitat, fairly spacious. In-game shelter for them, which I feel actually works really well for the area. And as you can see, I've put some rock face up, just hiding a bit of the Primate Estate for the most part, just so there's not too much clash of habitats. So yeah, we come over here, and here we have our dingoes. Now this originally was a habitat for another one of the Australian animals in the zoo, but figured it worked better for the dingoes, because then they would be kept further away from our kangaroos, because the dingo is a major predator of the kangaroo. So in here I slapped our dingoes. We held 7 dingoes in here. More or less a mirror image of the kangaroo habitat, except it doesn't go as far back. But we also have some indoor viewing for our dingoes. Again, I kept the rock face, so there's a bit of theming going on throughout the zoo. So we can come down here, just into this little nook, just here, and we have a bit of indoor viewing for them, which I actually do quite like. They actually spend more time indoors and outdoors from what it seems like. But yeah, really happy with how that's turned out, and we can get on to our next habitat. So we can come through here under our trailers, which is a fairly recent addition. Got a little staff entrance there, so staff area just there, and we've got another one just there, because this actually takes you into the animal which was in our dingo habitat just here, which is the southern cassowary. Kept the same fence as there, because cassowaries are quite dangerous, so it just keeps you further away. We hold two cassowaries in here, which actually there's a great view of them. And then there's the other one just in the house there. No indoor viewing for this one, because all that is just a square building, more or less, with a bit of staff access for them to come in. And yeah, not the biggest habitat in the world, but for the cassowary it works just fine. It's considering there's two of them. Not really too much else to report on this, really. Its function over form serves its purpose, and yeah. So we will come to our final animal of this episode, which is the most recent animal to be added into the zoo, which is our koalas. Now this habitat did give me a load of grief. I think this is like the 4th attempt at building a koala habitat in this zoo. I had a real hard time building it, and as you can see, 2 of our koalas in there out of the 4 we keep, but I feel it works really well. Not the most lively of animals. Got a bit of foliage in there, just mainly eucalyptus feeders, which from the looks of it, that one needs to be changed, but just a fairly small area, staff area, but just behind it, because if we go in here, we actually have some indoor viewing for them. Not the biggest, but this is probably the best indoor viewing I've ever done, because it's quite compact and everything. But again, there's the other 2 koalas, making use of the climbing frames which I've placed in there. Again, all the male animals in the zoo have been placed on contraceptives, so we don't have any babies, but just nice and neat, simple. We have our conservation pack 3D printed walls, which I feel work really well. This area got a wall there because after now we've done all of our Australia area, we are going to come into our the Americas experience, which is going to be all our animals from the Americas. We have a temporary path here which just leads into our Primate Estate. You can see the sign for it over there. Over here by where the dingo's exit is, we can come out of the explore cam now. Over here we do have another area which I have currently got as the Americas experience. However, I might make it into a wetlands area, because I do want to put the platypus in, but wasn't exactly sure how to fit the platypus into this area. And I also wanted to put some Asian otters in. I ideally want to put them there, but I'm not sure again of how to do it. So if I make a wetlands area, I can put our short clawed otters as well as our giant otters in, and other wetlands animals. But that will do for today in this tour, because there is going to be a part 2 to this one, because we have got so much done, which is mainly going to take place over this side of the zoo. You can probably see some little bits there and there, but for now I'm going to bid you adieu, and that is the episode. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.